Hello and welcome into the NFL Combine. The Arizona Cardinals, Bo, they're not on the clock yet, but they might trade their pick. It's the PHNX Cardinals Podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcasts. Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable. It's our last day. I'm sad here in Indianapolis. Site of the 2023 NFL Combine. Workouts started on the field yesterday.
They did. I mean, it was the Nolan Smith hype train. It left the station at a high velocity last night. It might be off the rails already, looking at the undersized defensive lineman.
High velocity. Where have I heard that before this week?
I think it was one of the many establishments that we went to. That makes us saying that we're wrapping up our coverage bittersweet.
Yes, it's been a banner week.
It has.
I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling a bit raggedy.
Little Raggedy Ann. After staying at the Raggedy Inn, yeah. We did have to say we had to bid adieu to our luxurious, our lap of luxury, the Airbnb.
Yeah, the Scarebnb.
Yeah, it was the Scarebnb where you could find many, not just a few, many Raggedy Ann dolls. In paraphernalia.
You know what I was thinking about when we were looking at those dolls? I'm like, I can't wait for the Cardinals' first pick, whomever it is, to ragdoll quarterbacks. So maybe this is poetic.
I like that transition.
Maybe this is poetic. Mm-hmm. And listen, Will Anderson Jr. is our preference at 3. Let's chisel it into stone right here. That if the Cardinals take a player at 3, especially with the Jalen Carter situation that's ongoing, we'll talk about that later. Will Anderson looked good. Ran his 40 time, 4.6. He said, I'm going to put a bow on it. Looked great in the on-field workouts.
Yeah.
But again, we are hearing otherwise. And the preference, and I put this up on my article, gophnx.com, Cardinals want to trade down. Mm-hmm. They want to trade down not only for picks in this draft, but for draft picks in 2024. Monty Ossenford, Michael Bidwell have been on record saying they're going to revamp the scouting department. They're going to implement new strategies come the 2023 college football season.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense. Like, have a bunch of ammunition this year and next year.
Yeah, it's tough because you get all the momentum from a regime change coming off of just a crappy 2022 season, and you get excited about the new pieces that have been put in place.
Yeah.
Monty Ossenford, his new front office, saying goodbye to some familiar faces. You know, good farewells, bad farewells, and then you bring in the new coaching staff. You get excited about that, and then you have to immediately temper expectations because it's truly a rebuild, and it really looks like the new regime is going to embrace that. So it's like, okay, let's hurry up, and then let's kind of wait. Let's just see, let's trade away one of the fixtures of this franchise the last 2 seasons in DeAndre Hopkins, and then let's take this what we had to kind of eat a lot of crap for, go 4-13 for the third overall pick. Let's trade out of it. It's a tough sell for a new regime for a fan base.
Yeah, but
I hope people understand the reasoning behind it because I think they're probably the right moves.
It's the commodity. And we had an opportunity to connect with all the quarterbacks this morning. They were on display. Listen, we woke up early to see them at 8 a.m. this morning to check out of our Airbnb. God help us. Right, we rallied.
I think I grabbed everything.
Yeah. I don't think I put my towel in the laundry room. Hopefully, Brandon Spano, I'm sorry if we get charged for that. But we saw all of them, and you know who else did? Like everybody here and all the teams that want to move up for these guys. And I really do think, Bo, the momentum that we're hearing right now in Indianapolis is this is not going to be like 2022 where it was, Kenny Pickett and his baby hands going in the 20s. It's 1 through 3. I do think the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I think a couple guys really are going to help themselves, one of which is Anthony Richardson, which I know might be a dirty word for some people in college football, but he is impressive.
He is. He absolutely is. I think you came away impressed by probably the top 3. We didn't get a chance to really listen to what Will Levis had to say. So you got the top 4 there as far as the quarterbacks in this draft that you could really envision getting drafted in the top 10.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those 3 between Young and Stroud and Richardson, you could see why teams are attracted to potentially trading up. I mean, you have to think about this. What the Arizona Cardinals are in a position of is they are an attractive person, and they're going to an event where the ratio of suitors it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like they're going to have a bunch of suitors, and now they can get a little picky as far as what they want to get in return. And, Ian Rappaport, he kind of reinforced what we've been hearing all week. And even before that, as far as the Arizona Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort's been, I asked him at his introductory press conference his approach to the draft, and he said, our phone lines are going to be open. We're going to take calls on this. And now it's trending towards them more than likely trading out of 3.
We feel like they're going to trade out. Jody Ehrler had rap sheet on his program this morning, basically talking about the Cardinals' desire to trade out. So this is not news. Now, you got to wait for the other shoe to fall, the first glass slipper, if you will, meaning the Chicago Bears. But there's going to be momentum with that, I would guess, in the coming weeks.
Because what is getting to 3 do for any quarterback-hungry team right now? If they love Stroud, if they love Young, if they love Richardson, if they love Levis, like if they're up at 3, it's like you have a very good chance of those first 2 picks, you missing out on your guy. So of course, you're going to wait until the first domino falls, and then probably another domino if Houston's the team to move up from 2 to 1.
But we do feel like regardless, it was San Francisco that traded up in 2021 to that 3rd overall pick with Miami. That happened on March 26th. So if you're looking at a barometer of which the Cardinals could do this, that's the kind of the timeline here after the initial wave of free agency. But it doesn't stop us from speculating on potential draft packages.
The difference between now and then was you had Jacksonville and the Jets locked in as quarterback-hungry teams at the top.
Right.
So it was the first viable option to trade up was 3.
Well, I think we'll get a Chicago trade before that.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get a Chicago trade, and who knows? The Bears could go to 1 to 2. They could go 1 to 4. The Cardinals are at 3. We don't think they're going to stick at 3. And here are some packages that we put together this morning of some teams that logically could fit, that quarterbacks are openly talking to right now. And it's the usual suspects. It's the teams in the NFC South. It's a team out west with the Cardinals in the AFC West in the Las Vegas Raiders. Here is our phenomenal graphic done by our guy Shane Diefenbach. It is fantastic. This is based on the draft value chart put together once upon a time by Jimmy Johnson. And there's also a little bit of a quarterback tax with these, but I'm going to be honest with you, Bo, when I was putting these numbers together, they're almost right on the money. So if you're looking at these 4 packages right now, here's what you got. Before everybody jumps at me and says, we want pick 4, we want Will Anderson, just hypothetically look at those other 3 packages. You're in all 3 packages, you're getting a 2024 first. Mm-hmm. Cut and dry, your first-round pick, it belongs to the Redbirds next year. On top of that, you're getting a top 44 pick. In the case of Carolina and the Raiders, you're getting top 40 picks. In a lot of drafts, maybe not this one, but in a lot of them, that's the equivalent of another first-round pick.
Right.
And you think about the Cardinals already have pick 34. So, I mean, you look at
35.
35. No, It's 34.
Okay.
It's 34.
So we have the Colts are pick 4 and 33 then?
Yeah.
Or 35.
They're 35.
They're
should be
behind the Cardinals in the second
That's
round.
my bad.
There's only 31 picks in the first, though.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So 30.
And the Cardinals are 3rd in the second round, which is 34th.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So
I blame Jimmy Johnson.
I blame Johnny. That was an error.
I messed up. Yeah. But the message is still clear. You would have picks 34 and 35 if you traded with the Colts, and probably Will Anderson. And I would imagine if we pose this to the fan base, that is what most would want.
It's most enticing.
Yeah.
I think the Colts and the Raiders, in my opinion, are the most enticing.
I think it's Atlanta.
Here's why I don't like Atlanta or Carolina as much as I like the Raiders, because the Raiders are still in that gauntlet of the AFC West. And those 2 NFC South teams, whoever is able to hit on a quarterback, they're going to be in the playoffs. In that pick, the next year's first, I mean, it already is viewed as a second value-wise right now.
Yeah.
It probably becomes, in the 20s. If not lower.
Jordan P. asking, why are the Falcons giving up more than the Panthers in this? Because the difference of those 5 spots right there. And via the draft chart, they would have to kick in an extra 3rd. So most of those second-round picks are in the same ballpark, but you drop 5 spots in this draft, and you're prepaying. Like, we're not live on the clock going from 34, 35 to 44. This is a pre-gifted package. And I do not think if Atlanta goes from 8 to 3, you're going to have to give up more than just your second-round pick and a one next year. We were talking to our guy Adam Hogue from CHGO. The Bears' asking price right now, from kind of what we're hearing, is 3 1s and a 2. So, again, and I think that's the starting point. So you're talking about a 1 this year, a 1 next year, a 1 after that, and a 2, and maybe more after that for Bryce Young. Yeah. So the Cardinals can sit back and say, no, just give us your 1 next year and your 2 this year, and that's the starting point.
Yeah.
And I think that's enticing. If somebody loves C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson or whomever, and all they really have to give up is, you get our 2 high picks this year, and you get our 1 next year, and we get our franchise quarterback, that's enticing for them.
But it's also enticing to get, compensation. Obviously, see immediate compensation in the move down one spot and get an impact player like Will Anderson. I think that's why the Colts, you would get an extra second. We're going to talk to Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus later to where you could net more picks about a trade that's been kind of gaining momentum this entire week with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
That Ian Rappaport told Jody Ayler today on Fox Sports 910 that is potentially going to happen in the next 10 days. Yeah. So you're already looking at gaining a tremendous amount of draft capital. And that's what's really intriguing for this in what, Monty Ossenfort is going to be. How is he going to get his staff in place? How is he going to work with the scouts that were in place? Because Michael Bidwell told Dave Pasch recently on his podcast, like, they're gearing up towards 2024, but you're going to have to make some solid picks to revamp and expedite this rebuild right away. You're going to be armed with a ton of picks.
I'm going to make a prediction right now. The Cardinals are going to have 3 second-round picks come this draft. They're going to have pick 34, they're going to have a pick from D-Hop, and they're going to have a pick from a trade down. Whether that's the Colts pick or the Falcons pick or whomever. Think about that. The Cardinals having 3 seconds and 2/3 being one of them of comp pick for Christian Kirk last year. I mean, you talk about there's 5 guys who you hope are starters and plus players, plus your first-round pick, maybe then a player next year. I told Bo this off air. I don't want to recognize this roster in 18 months. I mean, the whispers around here at the NFL Combine, and we'll talk to Brad about it later on, is they like Gannon, they like Monty.
Yeah.
They don't like the Cardinals roster. Old, overpaid, guys who haven't lived up to potential, guys who don't have positions. There are some guys we love. We love K1. We love Budda Baker. We want everybody to succeed. We got, high hopes for somebody like Trey McBride, Myjai Sanders. But they don't have enough high-end impact talent. And you go into day 2 of the draft and have 5 picks, and you can move around from there as well. I mean, they want as many lottery tickets as they can, and they're setting themselves up. I mean, it's going to be difficult, I don't say if, but when DeAndre Hopkins is traded. That's going to be a tough day for Cardinal fans, rightfully so. But the big picture is you're going to get a premium asset in return to either take a great player or to flip for multiple players for a roster that you've talked about ad nauseum. So thin.
Yeah.
The depth is so lacking. For me, it's exciting because we see these guys on the field. It's like, shit, man, like 12 of these guys could be Cardinals. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is great. It is great. I mean, the future looks bright. We go to our guy, producer Lawrence. We've got some super chats in there.
Supers. Michael Evans, thank you for the $2. He says, trade with my Colts, guys.
Trade with my Colts. We're in your backyard. We're in Indianapolis, and we just our producer Shane, got in a fist fight with Blue, the mascot. It was unreal.
I mean, me too. I was right there.
Yeah, you were. You guys were not backing down. But
threw snacks at me.
If you would, can you put the trade packages back up? The graphic, the great graphic, although it's flawed as far as which.
I was incorrect. Listen, the second round pick for the Cardinals is confusing as hell because the Miami Dolphins, because they attempted to court Tom Brady and Sean Payton, they lost their first round pick this year. So the Cardinals, instead of picking 35, pick 34.
Yeah.
And the Colts pick 34. But
let's look at the inaccurate graphic, but we're just using it as a map
wrong,
of some sort.
We're going to update it later.
Yeah, it just has, your one of the destinations is incorrect, and that could be problematic. But we'll tell you what's wrong is the picks for the Colts. It's 35 instead of 34, so you're just one off. But look, follow along with us, and then you just hit the like button on which package you like the best because you got the Carolina Panthers. Why are these teams on this graphic? Why are we kind of saying that they could potentially be the teams to trade up? Because when talking to guys like C.J. Stroud today and talking to guys like Anthony Richardson, they said that they had already had conversations with the Raiders, with the Falcons, with the Panthers.
Come on up.
These are teams doing their homework on these quarterbacks and trying to decipher and figure out which ones they want to trade up for potentially, because I think that they're realistic in the idea that, look, these guys aren't going to be there at 7, at 9, at 8. So you've got Carolina right now. They've got the 9th overall pick. You would just swap with 3rd for the 9th, get the 39th overall. Unbelievable. You guys did a great job in switching that out. And then the 2024 first. You've got the Atlanta Falcons. If you like this one, hit that like. Picks 8, 44, 75, and another 2024 first. Then you've got Vegas. You've got pick number 7, 36th overall, and a 2024 first. And then you've got picks 4 and 35 from the Colts. Hit what you like on those as you listen along. And yes, these are just like the baselines. Like you're not. I don't think you're going to get less than this.
We didn't deep dive into like day 3 picks that could be attached to this. And again, this is me purely going off of and trying to get as close as I can via the draft value chart. But then you see the caveat is if it's for a quarterback, sometimes you have to give up more. Mm-hmm. So, like, would it be a surprise if a team like Carolina, who's trying to jump a division rival in Atlanta, has to come up and not only give their 2nd this year, but like a 3rd next year, right? Like, that's within the realm of possibility. So, to Bo's point, this is the baseline. And that's why, as much as we love Will Anderson, this is what the Cardinals want to do. This is the quickest way to become viable and competitive again, is to get so many cracks at the plate and load up in draft capital. This franchise has never, ever prioritized the value of drafting and developing. And thank the football gods, there are new people involved that do value that.
It's important to remember because I think there are a lot of snake-bitten fans out there.
And rightfully so. Like, you watch Steve Keim butcher the draft year after year. This is the true fresh start. Yeah. And I think this is what Michael Bidwell wants to do, too. He wants to see this franchise, despite what's going on at their facility and all that bullshit, he wants to see this franchise develop homegrown stars because this team has been burnt. They've been burnt by trading for players, overpriced veteran free agents, right? We love J.J. Watt, but that was really much to do about nothing. He was here for 2 years. They want guys who are here for 10, 12 years. They want people who are part of this franchise for a decade.
And the swing and miss rate on it feels like layup picks, first-round picks.
Top 10 picks.
We went over this earlier today about which fifth-year options were exercised and which weren't, and which first-round picks received extensions. I mean, it's 2 players under the Steve Keim era that received extensions. That was DJ Humphries and just last offseason, Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And then you even just look to say, who got their 5th-year option exercise? It wasn't Jonathan Cooper. He was traded out of town in the Chandler Jones trade after having a couple subpar seasons after an injury. Then you had Deion Buchanan, who did, right? And then you had DJ Humphries, who redshirted. You ended up exercising his 5th-year option. He got the extension. We know about that. And then you've got guys like Hassan Reddick, no fifth-year option, right?
What about Josh Rosen? He gets 5th year?
Josh Rosen did not.
Oh, I must have missed that.
No, he didn't miss that. Kyler Murray did. This is his 5th-year option season, and he got the extension. And then we're talking about Isaiah Simmons, where we're talking to Monty Ossenford, who's going to wear out the time between now and the May 2nd deadline to figure out if that's something they're going to want to do.
Let's talk about that real quick, because I put that in my article yesterday at gophnx.com. It's free. Everybody can go read it right now. I would love it if you would do that. Howard also dropped a banger as well about JG's staff. But the Simmons situation is the Cardinals are not sitting around, but other teams are actively picking up 5th-year options. No-brainers for teams, right? It's not a no-brainer with Monty Ossenford, and I think it's less about Isaiah Simmons, the football player. I think it's about the money that would be attached to Isaiah Simmons. You look at what they're about to do, the gutting of this roster, and I emphasize gutting, and you think about all these picks that they're going to accumulate. Isaiah Simmons' successor, I'm going to let everybody know, is going to be a part of these next 2 drafts. Like whomever is playing that position that we think Isaiah Simmons is going to fill. I don't know. Will or Sam linebacker.
Remember what John Ganton said to you when you said, "Hey, Johnny, JG, what position is he going to play?" He's like, "I look forward to figuring that out with him." I don't know.
hey, well, give me some time to figure it out.
Simmons, even if he's a safety, you've got 2 safeties that are locked in right now in Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker. And then you look at this, where Austin Fort came from, where Gannon came from. They don't invest big-time dollars, $12 million range like Isaiah Simmons is going to command. Because he's going to be a linebacker as far as as far as his position goes.
Yeah, I think
free agency.
If he's on the team this year, he's going to play linebacker. Right. He's going to play linebacker. Maybe he plays 75% of the snaps. Maybe he pops off, and they get a sweet, sweet comp pick for him. They want to draft a T.J. Edwards-esque type of player. T.J. Edwards was undrafted, but you get what I'm saying, like middle to late round linebacker that can come in and play what they want to play. They don't emphasize linebacker play. They emphasize edge rushers, defensive tackles, corners. What have the Cardinals been emphasizing? Inside backers and safeties. So, again, there's a difference in philosophy. Would you want Isaiah Simmons on your team? Of course.
Yep.
Not at $12 million. You don't have to spend $12 million at Circle K, by the way.
I could.
You can spend about, $12 and come out with a bounty of goodies. Speaking of goodies, we are so fired up to welcome our newest partner to the PHNX family, that being the convenience store of all convenience stores, Circle K. So fired. I can't wait to come back to the Valley tonight, tomorrow, and head into the Circle K, get my coffee. Not that there's anything wrong with the coffee here at the Combine, but I'm just going to say last 2 mornings we tried to get it.
Yeah, it's been tough.
It's been tough. Not only is it not filled up, but then we get it, and I'm just like, I'm not too sure. I want some Circle K coffee.
The Circle K down the street from the facility was my go-to spot. Before I head into practice, before I go listen to the press conference, before we talk to players, you get the coffee, you could get yourself a donut, you could get yourself some chips, you could get yourself anything you want. Polar Pop in the middle of the day, that's going to get you going right after your morning coffee wears out. Everything you need you can find at Circle K. We're pumped to be partnered with them. They actually have some of their goodies already at the PHNX studios, and we don't have to pay for them.
It's nice because
it's not the Cardinals organization.
Saul Bookman does not take the Circle K goodies out of my paycheck, at least that I think.
Right.
So Michael Bidwell, take note. Also take note, if you're a fan of Circle K and PHNX, Circle K is giving away a $500 gas card to one of our Arizona PHNX listeners. Just text the word PHNX, that's PHNX, to 31310 to enter. Again, so fortunate to be a part of a partner that we partner with on a daily basis, Bo.
Coffee in the morning, Polar Pop in the afternoon, Four Peaks 6-pack at night.
Of course,
I mean, you got every single thing you want to put in your body at Circle K, or if you want to go see where the beer is made. How about check out Four Peaks in Tempe, 8th Street, the brewery's there, and we can see it all be made, and you can see it in all its glory. They got the great bar there with every single beer that they brew on tap, their flagship Kilt Lifter. How about the #1 wheat beer in Arizona, the Wow Wheat? You've got IPAs. Yeah, they've got plenty of them for you. You've got Hazy. You've got Raj. How about the Raj Bourbon Barrel? Have you ever had that before?
I have.
It's so damn smooth. It's so good. They've got a full just bourbon barrel collection. They started collecting bourbon barrels that they got from like Kentucky, where they used to age whiskey in bourbon, and they started putting their delicious beers in them, and it took it to another level.
Yeah.
You go there and you just have the best time. Great food. You start with the apps, you get to the entrees, you end with the desserts, and you have great beers along the way. Can't go wrong with Four Peaks, and they are partnering with the McDowell Music Festival, the M3F Festival, going on March 3rd and 4th. You can grab your tickets at m3ffest.com. Enjoy that wow wheat that you can get there at the festival while you're there. You got to be 21 years or older. Of course, drink responsibly.
Let's talk about some of these super chats here, because I think you guys are asking some great questions for us and producer first? Lawrence, whomever's available.
All right,
dealer's choice.
You know what, actually,
Lawrence.
I'm going to go to the latest one just because it's kind of on the same topic we've been talking about from Joel Valenzuela, $4.99. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
Do you think they wait till the draft to trade back or prior to? I say wait, see if Anderson is available. If not, trade back and get CB1.
I can tell you right now, definitively, Joel, they value picks more than Will Anderson. So my assumption would be that they would prefer to trade back well before the draft.
Yeah, I think that happens. I mean, even though when we talked to Monty earlier this week, he said he hasn't received any calls, but that makes too much sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, as the Bears hold the keys to this draft, they could trade not once but potentially twice before anybody's calling the Arizona Cardinals about their third overall pick.
Yeah.
There are QB-hungry teams there. The Bears aren't one of them. They could trade simply just down from 1 to 2 with Houston, and then they could trade down from 2 to potentially 4. Because if Indy's sitting there and they're saying, well, we like C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson, we can't guarantee that he's going to be there. And the Bears would have the benefit of trading even further down and not falling even out of the top 5.
Right.
They could stay within the top 10 potentially with all these deals, and still the Arizona Cardinals would be the team waiting on those deals to be done before a team would be naive to say, okay, we could get in 3, unless they're like, we like Richardson the best, we like Will Levis. That's still a gamble.
But to Joel's point, I think if they can't, there's still possibility that they can't move down, right? You can be open for business and nobody comes and you got to file for bankruptcy, right? And you say, I'm going to stick and pick.
Yeah.
And if they stick and pick, it's going to be, I believe right now, Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. So
I mean, we saw Will Anderson. I thought, I joked with a GIF when after his 40 last night, because I thought he came out of the gates not smooth, right?
You were incorrect. We sat at dinner.
That's because you saw what his final...
put out a disrespectful Michael Scott meme, and I looked at you and I said...
You had the same reaction as me. Will you not lie to the people,
It was
please?
like protecting my firstborn child with Will Anderson Jr. I said,
show them respect.
How dare you? How dare you disrespect Will Anderson Jr.? And what happened? They screwed up his 40 time. It was better than we thought. It was an even 4-6. Chef kissed.
Hey, guys.
What?
Johnny, you're lying.
No, that happened.
Yeah.
Johnny's lying.
Get this guy out of here with this headset. And then I also loved, in all seriousness, I loved the bag work for Will Anderson, the tree trunk legs. He was working out with the linebackers.
He was after he got out of the gates and he kind of knocked the rust off, and it was still a number that didn't they say he wanted a 4.61 and he got a 4.60?
And then he was like,
later. He said, thanks, I'm going to put on the slides.
Later.
And then I'm going to do some workouts later. And then he did, and he looked the best. It wasn't even close.
He was the best player that I think worked out yesterday.
Well,
I'm biased.
Nolan Smith was very impressive.
How's Nolan Smith the football player? Nolan Smith, the football player?
He's a champion for Georgia.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, right,
He
Lawrence?
is good. We're going to get him, and he's going to come in.
So lean.
What we'll do is
he's 6'2" and under 240.
We're going to draft Nolan Smith 3rd overall. We're going to see if he can play inside backer, and then maybe some occasional slot corner. Oh wait, this franchise doesn't operate like Looney Tunes anymore, and they're going to take players that positions they play at the collegiate level.
And then you see the comp, though, right? The comp that kind of went crazy on after they did it on the NFL Network, just how he looks like Khalil Mack. I mean, as far as 40 time, as far as size, weight, and obviously, Khalil Mack's coming out of a small school, though, in Buffalo, and you got Will Anderson Jr. coming out of Bama.
Picking spreads, we love you. $5 super chat. Did you guys see the report of the Chiefs are interested in D-Hop? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I think that was on our show with Benjamin Albright. If we trade him to KC, I'm going to cry because give Mahomes another ring, Super Bowl MVP, and MVP.
Double shout out to Picking Spreads because he actually threw in an earlier one.
Oh, thank you so much, Picking Spreads.
$7 super chat I should put on there.
You're the man.
We can almost buy that plane ticket home at this point.
Here's what I think that the floor for a D-Hop trade is Kansas City's second-round pick. I think that's been solidified. We're going to talk to Brad from PFF, and he's going to echo those comments, I believe, when we speak with him. Mm-hmm. But what is that, pick 63 or something?
Yeah.
That's the floor for D-Hop right now, and I think that the Cardinals are going to get something better than that. It feels like there's momentum now with multiple teams. You're seeing teams kind of drudge through the muck of this free agency. That is not great. I mean, we've been able to talk and bounce ideas off of our friends at CHGO. The Bears have $100 million in cap space. There are not $100 million players or player available in this free agency pool.
It's coming up, and you can tune into it because Brad from Pro Football Focus also joins our guys from CHGO.
Yeah.
And they were asking about that wide receiver market, and it's like Jacoby Myers. Yeah, like DJ Shark.
Bunch of Jags, right?
Yeah,
just a guy.
Just guys. And none of them is DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he had, 71 catches in less than 10 games
He was
last
going
year?
to have a 1,000-yard season even after his suspension before the Cardinals held him out of games at the end of the year to protect their assets. So,
if the Cardinals trade him before the new league year, which would be within the next 10 days,
which
that's what
they are.
Rap Sheet told Jody today on 910, that saves you about $8 million in cap space.
Yeah. And again, the cap space is important, but it's not vital. What's vital is the draft capital. And speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, in case you missed this, he took to Twitter a couple of days ago. We referenced this at the end of yesterday's show, basically kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, yeah, I was dealt a bad deck. Bad cards make you a better card player or make you a better gambler or whatever it is. I think we've got the graphic here. And, again, it's one of those things where it's going to be a difficult day when they trade D-Hop. But if you're a fan of this show, first of all, God bless you. Like this show. Subscribe to PHNX Sports. We've been on this with our guy Jordan Schultz since about mid-January. I mean, I think most people have an idea now that, yeah, he's not going to be a part of what they're doing, especially, Bo, when we asked Monty Ossenford and Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon in particular was like, yeah, I don't know if he's going to be on the team.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's what he said. That's a direct quote. I'm not sure. When you do have a guy like that on your team, you're excited about it. You're excited about putting in the game plan and working those matchups. But the Arizona Cardinals have worked themselves out of having that luxury of being able to pay a wide receiver what they would have to pay DeAndre Hopkins, and also having a guy that probably wants an extension to pay him premium money in future dollars, cap dollars, at going into his age 31 season.
Yeah.
So if you can, it would be mutually beneficial for both sides to ship Hopkins out to a scenario where it's an up-and-coming team potentially that could be contending for a playoff spot and trying to develop a quarterback that's about to take the jump, Bears, or you've got the Big Apple. I guess you got a potential quarterback there that you're probably going to have to pay a lot of money at least this season with Daniel Jones if you slap that franchise tag on him. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because we are going to get more into that conversation with Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus here shortly. But it just seems like the two things we've really learned this week is the Arizona Cardinals want to trade out of 3 and are going to trade DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, like a couple more super chats.
Let's see him.
Hopkins. This one from Randy. Since it sounds like a 2 for Hop is the cap, what do you think about just shooting for a first next year instead? And then picking spreads, actually. Thank you again. Another $2. He says, would you guys take a 2024 first-round pick? I would.
Love you, Randy. Love you picking spreads. I think the teams probably don't have an appetite for that just because you don't know where that pick's going to be. And if you're the Cardinals, I think you want, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, I think you want Hopkins draft capital this year. I think it's easier for the fan base to swallow, hey, D-Hop's not on the team. We got to wait for a pick into next year's draft. Also, the equivalent of a 2 this year is a first next year. Mm-hmm. So I guess if you really love next year's draft, but it's also the optics of that team saying, the second this year is lesser than a first next year. I don't know. It would be unusual. Typically, the only kind of trades that involve future ones is if it's a multiple pick year deal or if it's for like a trade up in the draft. Usually when you're trading for a veteran player, the conversation starts with picks in that draft that year. It doesn't immediately go to the following year.
Who else is saying great things on the Super Chat, Lawrence?
Well, let's see here. Jason Krell, he threw us $1.99 saying, what up, guys? Just getting in. Trade back? 2 question marks.
Yeah.
Seems like that's their preference.
It does. It does.
Thank you, Jason.
If the reports are that they're not exactly completely in love with a guy like Will Anderson, who could be the top 9 quarterback, and
I think they just don't think that Will Anderson alone can fix all of their shit. Like they're an exterior. It's like if you hire a financial advisor or you hire an exterior like third-party marketing consultant, and they come in and you pay them to give them an objective view. That would not be happening if Steve Keim, or with all due respect, like Adrian Wilson, people who have been here and seen these players be brought in, that doesn't happen with them. Dave Sears has no allegiance to this organization prior to this year. Same with Gannon, same with Ossenford. So they're going to come in and with a fine-tooth comb go through this roster, both in terms of the players and the money that's tied to each player, and say, they're probably saying to themselves, like, we don't have enough good players. We love Will Anderson. We wish we could have Will Anderson on our team. I'm sure they would love to have big number 31 on the team or 33 on the team. But at the end of the day, it's more than just an impact edge rusher. The Bears had Khalil Mack and were terrible.
Yeah.
It's not just one singular player. They would love to get an impact player in the top 10 trading down and then have multiple ones next year to continue to add and stockpile.
More from Picking Spreads. He's making his case for the 2024 first, right?
Yeah, he threw us another $5. He says, think about it, though. How worse can Casey's pick be? It's already the lowest first-round pick in this year's draft. Next year, it can only get better or be the same.
I would say at this point, and to my point earlier, is this new regime, Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon coming in and immediately trading one of your best players and then trading down from 3 later in the draft, right? At some points, you do have to play the optics game. And if you can get a guy that you feel like you can draft and develop out of the second round that you can immediately get returns for from your fan base, I think that does you better than saying, hey, I got a first next offseason in my back pocket.
The Cardinals can't win games at home. They had I don't want to call it a smear campaign. They were exposed by the NFLPA from their own doing. Like, again, I think that they're probably like the optics are bad anyway, so let's just get what we can this year. Because they're going to have a press conference when they trade DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to have to address it one way or the other, whether it's during free agency or whenever, and they're going to have to talk about the excitement that's going to come from that pick because they feel like they're going to get an impact player. Libertarian Sasquatch, $4.99, trading down just seems gross. Take the DN and build around him. This roster sucks anyways. It's a multi-year rebuild, in my opinion.
Well, that's the point. I think you make your own point there. It's a multi-year
you're going to get rebuild. You're going to get a good player at the end. Like our trade down scenarios
at a premium position.
Right. Our trade down scenarios are not like 18, 19, 20.
Right.
I mean, Micah Parsons once upon a time went 10 or 11. Devontae Smith went 10. I mean, you can get good players. You should be able to get a Pro Bowl player in the top 10. But is he the best player in the like? We feel like Will Anderson and Jalen Carter are the 2 best players in the draft.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them now. So I understand like the grace period that it's going to take. Like, you're going to have 2 grace periods coming up. Cardinal fans coming to grips with, if they trade out, we're not getting Will, we're not getting Jalen, and then also we don't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore. And that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
And then there is a lot of guys, prospects that you could fall in love with, the Devin Witherspoons of the world. I'm seeing Christian Gonzalez's name coming into the chat as well. Mike Evans, I believe we did get to his super chat, right? What was his question from earlier?
The Mike Evans one from earlier. What was that one?
He was just asking trading down, right?
Well, there's one from him about Dortch, but I want to, since we're in this topic now, though, Kyle Haley threw us $5 and he said,
"Thanks, Kyle.
Hey guys, do you think Monty's going to be aggressive in trades?
Trades for picks, not trades for veteran players."
When you look at this roster, there's just not a whole lot of veterans that you could that are going to be viewed as attractive to other rosters. That have ties to any new coaching staffs or any staffs that are already in place in the NFL. I just don't think that you're going to see like a high command for the current talent for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, we've tried to identify them. Isaiah Simmons. I don't see any what kind of value.
Jalen Thompson.
Jalen Thompson. I mean, obviously he signed the extension before last season. With what they're saying about Budda Baker, I think he's one of the untouchables, one of the few untouchables. But then you start to look at it, it's like Hollywood Brown, you could save $13 million, but if you're trading D-Hop, you can't completely have a depleted wide receiver room. Somebody has to suit up and play the position.
I'm seeing a lot of trade DJ Humphrey. You have to have capable tackles. You can't get Kyler Murray.
His cap situation, I think, makes him kind of untradeable.
Right. They just signed him to extension, then he missed some time last year. Michael, $5 super chat. Thank you so much.
Hold on, let's get to Michael Evans here.
Okay, multiple Michaels.
Yeah, so he says, I like Dortch, guys. Will they keep him?
I think the only scenario, Bo, where that happens is they look at the tape from last year, which they're going to do, and they said, this guy's a really good football player. Let's contact his agents.
There's got to be guys. Well, Quentin Harris is still with the organization. Like some holdovers, guys like Spencer Whipple, who are holdovers from the previous regime.
Yeah.
In the front office and on the coaching staff, they'd have to make their case for Greg Dortch. But I think if you turn on the film, you're going to like what you see. If you're Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, he's just a gamer out there. Yeah, absolutely. He was a guy that we were vying for to see more snaps and kind of had to take a back seat anytime Rondell Moore was in a position to play, which wasn't a lot. But anytime that Dortch got his opportunity, he had some big games, not just like big games for Greg Dortch. He had big games and made big plays.
Like he had advanced metrics saying he was one of the top 5 best receivers in all football in separation. And the Cardinals were like, no. You go play special teams.
There are just so many pressing needs on this roster to look at, lower down the wide receiver depth chart and holdovers from last season. I think that he could unfortunately get lost. I hope he doesn't, because he's somebody that I think this podcast would love to see the Cardinals retain.
Yeah. Last super chat, Michael dumps in. Great question that we didn't have a chance to talk about yesterday. We'll address it real quick. A tad off topic. You guys didn't mention this yesterday, but because of the NFLPA grading, should people go easier on players like Kyler and then also get Will Anderson, prayer hands, of course? Yes, 100%. And that, again, I didn't want to make, when you're tweeting about the NFLPA and the egregiousness of what the Cardinals have done, I didn't want to make it about Kyler because I think too much is connected to Kyler, right or wrong. But I think we've been consistent of our messaging. While he's got things to work on like everybody else, they took a player with a winning mindset and attitude that had only ever won, and he came here, and then they had problems, and people wanted to point to number one, when in reality this is a franchise that has the longest professional championship drought in all pro sports, the longest drought.
He went from Oklahoma, playing with a team that was in the college football playoff, right? Playing with a lot of talent on that offense, and probably came from better facilities. He took a step down, almost roster-wise and as far as organizationally, program-wise. He was very productive, obviously, with the Offensive Rookie of the Year honors and then 2 Pro Bowls on top of that. So, yeah, I think he's done pretty well despite all the criticism, but also what the cards he was dealt.
We want to get to Brad Spielberger from PFF, but first I want to tell you guys about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. I hope everybody dabbled on the Kevin Durant boosted prop on DraftKings the other night. Our guy Shano, producer Lawrence, everybody was fruitful on DraftKings because of one KD. It did get scary because Kevin Durant left the game, but then he came back in and proceeded to have, 20-plus points? It is 23.
Hit the 3 that he needed.
Suns money line. I feel like, can we manifest the Kevin Durant props with the Phoenix Suns are going to be the Justin Field rushing props from the Chicago Bears this fall, where it basically was free money every Sunday? That's what I want to see happen on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Speaking of DraftKings, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. New customers can bet a mere 5 spot, get $200 back in bonus bets instantly. Again, you can put $5 on anything, the spread, the money line, any kind of prop that you want. You can bet on the NFL Combine right now. Only at DraftKings, only with PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See those show notes for it. Details.
The only thing more electric than the Phoenix Suns' current starting 5 is a night out at the Octane Raceway in Mavericks in Scottsdale. There's nothing like it in the Valley. It's the ultimate place for fun for both kids and adults. That's right. You could go there with the boys, the fellas, just hang out and have just as good a time as the Venerables making their way all the way out of Maricopa, booking a flight, flying into Scottsdale, and then going. Well, you're in Maricopa. You're hours away.
Yeah.
But you've already had a great time. So have we. We did a team building thing. I think that we all learned a lot about each other and lean on each other a little bit more because of the great times, the vibes that we had from Octane Raceway. They got daily specials all week long. $15 unlimited fun pass on Monday. 50% off taco trios on Tuesday. Winning Wednesday. Half price arcade games all day. Big bucket Thursday. $20 beer buckets. And Friday, trivia night, rotating drink specials, 8 to 10. That's going down tonight. Or this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, check out 50% off signature bowling before noon. Book some fun this spring at Octane Raceway in Mavericks. Go catch March Madness out at Octane Raceway in Mavericks. You got racing, virtual reality, laser tag, axe throwing, bowling, arcade, great food and drinks. They've got it all. Bring your spring training ticket stub as well. You're right there at Talking Stick. Catch a Rockies game, a D-backs game, and go right over to Mavericks. Have yourself get a free $10 game card. Check out OctaneRaceway.com and Mavericks.com to learn more. Now, we're going to talk to Brad here quickly, but I want to say this. After we talk to Brad, before we get out of here, wrap up our coverage, Johnny talked to a couple draft prospects today that have been in discussions with the Arizona Cardinals, including quarterback.
What?
We'll tell you who that is, but let's talk to our guy, Brad.
Real quick, though, last donation from last dono, because I'm a broke college student, from Pick and Spreads.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you, Pick and Spreads. We appreciate you, my man.
Thank you. Let's go to Brad Spielberger right now. am recording. Go for it.
Coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Sorry about that.
Let's wrap up coverage here from Indianapolis, the NFL Scouting Combine. It's been a great week. Make sure you're subscribed to PHNX_sports here on YouTube, following us across all our socials. We're excited to be joined by Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, and this has been a topic that's been trending up all week. And Ian Rappaport earlier this morning told one of our friends, Jody Ayler, that he thinks that DeAndre Hopkins could be dealt in the next 10 days. Brad, your specialty is free agency, the cap, some trades potentially. You've got your top 150 free agents coming out next week. Your top 100's out right now. But when you look at DeAndre Hopkins leaving the Arizona Cardinals, what's the biggest obstacle for the Cards and a suitor coming after D-Hop?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they want to get good value. Obviously, they traded away, second-round pick and some more to get him. But I think the good thing, maybe you could say the good thing, is no longer the no-trade clause. That gets voided by his suspension, make things a little bit easier. He obviously could maybe tell a team, hey, I'm not going to show up if you trade me there, so he can kind of still control it a little bit. But, no, I think that deal is going to get done very early in the new league year.
Don't you expect that whatever team trades for him understands that they're going to have to give him a new contract? Don't you want, if you're sacrificing a premium pick, whether it's a second round or whatever, you're going to have to give Hopkins a couple extra years on top of it with some more guarantees. Wouldn't he just want to go to whomever's going to pay him?
Right, and that's the thing, is that you should know you're going to have extra leverage for that player because you just traded premium capital to go get him.
Right.
He's going to want that new deal, or like you said, at least get a bunch of money guaranteed, and then maybe some years tacked on like you did with Arizona. You guarantee the upfront money, add some years in the back end that obviously he's not going to play on now in Arizona. But yeah, he probably does just want to go to the highest bidder. I do think at this point in his career, too, he'd like to contend. He obviously has not done a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's suitors lining up. I mean, this is somebody that in D-Hop that there was inquiries at the trade deadline, and then you revamped that. And now we're starting to look at, Benjamin Albright told us earlier this week, the Kansas City Chiefs. That was the Vegas favorite back when the initial report came out that DeAndre Hopkins could be on the move or the Arizona Cardinals would explore this. You were the one that we talked about the deal with the New York Giants, a second and a fifth for DeAndre Hopkins. Could it be New York? Who else do you like?
Yeah, no, the New York team choice in that article wasn't completely by accident. I'm not saying I'm breaking news here that it's going to happen, but I have heard they are a team that is interested. I do think you're looking at a team that does not have the highly paid quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes that can fit him in. A team that also wants to add a true number one receiver that can knock down the rest of their guys, put them in a better position. Off the top of my head, another team that could maybe make sense. Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, it's all about the contract, too. Who is going to be willing to pay him all that extra money?
They talk Patriots. We
Bears.
Look at Packers, Bears. I know our guy CHGO, part of that show, people like it, and other guys think at age 31 and it's expensive.
Well, the Claypool trade, they take a mulligan on that, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. Yes, they would.
And they'd rather have DeAndre Hopkins.
They sure would. The Patriots is interesting. They do have the money. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think the one thing that doesn't make sense is what is his relationship like with Bill O'Brien. But that type of team, I think does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the third overall pick because we've heard all week there's momentum for the Cardinals. They're actively looking to trade down. We've heard they want to recoup not only picks this year, but into next year when Monty Ossenford and company can implement their own draft strategy. The Jalen Carter thing is incredibly unfortunate. Will Anderson, we've heard, they like him. Maybe they don't love him. What's the best case scenario for Arizona, do you think?
Yeah, I think at this point you want a bidding war with Las Vegas Raiders. I know Ian Rappaport mentioned yesterday the Atlanta Falcons at 8 could maybe now be in that conversation. Of course, the Panthers at 9, the Tennessee Titans at 11. I think not enough people are talking about as a team that is probably looking to make a move up and maybe take a quarterback. So, yeah, I think it is just getting that massive pile of draft picks. Look, the Arizona, I'm not breaking news here either. They're a couple, more than one piece away, right?
Yes, yeah.
As good as Will Anderson is, they have a lot of holes to address.
Yeah.
And I think you want to just stockpile some picks right now.
Yeah, and we're not going to be offended here if you push back on this, but, as we continue to have this conversation, and Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud, they both said that Atlanta have talked with them, 2 quarterback prospects that you would assume you'd have to trade up to select one of those guys. But when you look at Monty Ossenford, Jonathan Gannon, we've said and maintained that we think it's going to be – they're going to churn this roster, but you're not going to see any big-ticket free agents come to the desert this offseason.
I'd be surprised. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, and I think both those guys get that. Coming from, I think organizations that also understand that as well. Maybe Tennessee tried to hang on a little bit too long there. But I think I mentioned this maybe, at the bar at some point. I've heard really good things about both of these guys. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show. I know Monty Ossenfort was a finalist for the Bears GM job last year, and they liked him a lot, and obviously Gannon's had a bunch of head coach interviews. So I think they get it. I think they have a multi-year plan. I mean, obviously Kyler's injury kind of makes that a necessity as well. But, yeah.
Let's talk about free agency because you look at the landscape of this team. They've got some expensive guys that are not productive. I mean, we talked about it off air. Robbie Anderson, easiest cut in the NFL,
Chosen.
right?
Chosen Anderson.
Chosen Anderson. Not chosen Josh Rosen. Chosen Robbie Anderson. $12 million they're immediately going to save. Anything else off the top of your head with this team that they could do or they might be tempted to do?
That's part of the issue, and why we're talking about turning this roster. There really aren't a lot of obvious cut candidates or guys that save you significant room to move on from, right? So, who knows what happens with Rodney Hudson and things of that nature, how they work through some of those older guys. But that's kind of the problem, right? Is there aren't, obviously that one's great for Robbie, clearing $12 million right off the top, zero in dead cap. But that's kind of the issue, is there's not a lot of those answers.
When you start to look at this roster, I mean, obviously you identified DeAndre Hopkins as probably their most valuable asset to create more assets, right? And then you look at the easy cuts, right, where you can create some cap space. But we started doing some digging. It's like if you trade Hollywood Brown, you probably get pennies on the dollar for a first-round pick that they traded away for him last year, but you get $13 million in cap space. Isaiah Simmons is a guy that we keep going back to, but it's like, do you just let him play out? Is that maybe get a comp pick and not pick up his option?
Right, and I also think, you bring in a guy like Gannon, maybe he can do a better job of utilizing his skill set a little bit better, putting him in more positions to succeed. I don't really think he's a slot corner, whatever the heck they're doing down there the past couple of years.
Too many snaps there.
Yeah, so no, but I think those ones right, where you probably aren't going to pick up that option, and that already kind of gets the conversation going of, should we look to move on from him going into what could be his last year? I think that would make sense. But yeah, that's trading away a young player that you're trying to build around, not getting rid of some kind of old aging veteran.
What's the perception of the Arizona Cardinals around the NFL? We just saw they failed, mercifully failed the new what is it?
The team report cards from the NFLPA.
Yeah, the NFLPA came out and flunked the Cardinals, gave them 5 Fs. The Commanders got 4 Fs. Yeah, I didn't even know that was possible.
Have you ever? You were probably a great student, so you probably never.
You went to law school.
Yeah,
I'm unfamiliar with it, but the concept is unfamiliar. Yeah.
So the Cardinals get a bunch of Fs. Their weight room is horrific. Their nutrition plan's terrible. Have you heard that they're going to make wholesale changes to their administrative side of things? Have you heard about the impact because we keep hearing Gannon's name everywhere that NFL people love them, but the Twitter streets, everybody in Philadelphia wants him out. So what is the perception of this team?
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, these two guys I think are going to change things. Coming from multiple organizations, Monty Ossenfort was in New England for a long time before Tennessee. I think they are going to try to turn some things around. I think Bidwell's willing to do it, maybe just didn't have the pressure to do some of these things, not making guys pay to eat lunch during the offseason or whatever those NFLPA things were. Like you said, they beat the Commanders. They weren't dead last. But yeah, no, again, and look, I talk to people in Philadelphia this season in the building, not the rabid fan base that's pissed off about the Super Bowl. Right. They love the guy. They really, really do. As a teacher, he also was actually in Minnesota when I was interning there. Didn't get a chance to meet him, but same thing. I was hearing then, that's probably 3-4 years ago, this guy's going to be a future head coach. He's not only a great energy guy, and of course everyone's making fun of the video of Rondell Moore and all that stuff.
We loved it.
I thought it was awesome. Yeah, explosive shots. Yeah. But also that he is very, very good. I think it's an underrated thing right now is disseminating information to younger guys, like Gen Z. Not to throw these buzzwords, but you're coaching different people and different players, and he is known as that's an edge for him as well. It's how to teach these guys to retain things that learn differently than current players.
We were told that by Andrew Sendejo, former NFL safety, who's friends with Gannon, and that's what he said is his main strength going into this at that time a coaching carousel. But it's really fascinating. We saw our guys from CHGO put you on the spot here. We talked Gannon. Quick connecting of the dots. Who could be somebody that follows Gannon from Philly to the desert?
It's a good question. I mean, he should definitely try to bring as
plenty
many
of
people
options.
as possible.
But what's realistic, cap wise, what you want to spend, age wise, probably not.
passing on somebody that I think is generational in Will Anderson Jr. for a guy that's all about, and we talked to somebody earlier this week from PFF basically comparing it to last year with Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think the Cardinals can do that with the state of the fan base, but we've heard they really like Tyree Wilson.
I was going to make the exact same analogy, and he is that Trayvon Walker. I mean, he is, his measurables, I didn't even test this week, but his measurables are insane. And I mentioned to the CHGO guys, I mean, his wingspan is an inch shorter than Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, he's a
Sorry about that, guys. We appreciate you sticking with us as we thank Brad from Pro Football Focus. Again, check out his work. He's got his top 150 coming out soon.
Yeah, whole thing's coming up. You can find the isolated interview on our YouTube page. Make sure you're subscribed to PHNX_sports. I'm absolutely just pumped up to get on a flight, get home, plop down in my living room on my More Furniture couch, sleep in my More Furniture bed, and see my family this weekend, hang out in our house, surrounded by all the great findings we found at More Furniture that you can find for yourself. Morefurniture.com. They got limited time doorbusters right now. How about the recliners that we have in our studio right now? So sleek, so comfy. It's the Bolero 2-power recliner. It's in black, and you can get it under $500. How about the Queen Sleeper sofa? You can get one for under $1,000. Those are the limited time doorbusters that you can find on morefurniture.com. Also, you can go check them out. You can get 25% off currently. You can get that white glove delivery. That means they deliver your home, they unpack it, they put it together, they get rid of the packaging, and they put it exactly where you want it. Get that white glove delivery from More Furniture. Custom furniture, or they have that as well. You can choose your frame, your fabric. Can't go wrong with More Furniture. Morefurniture.com. Love them. We are so pumped to continue to be partner with them, Johnny.
Yeah, it looks like folks are still saying we've got some technical difficulties with our sound. So, hey, might not be a bad time to sound off here from the 2023 NFL Scouting Combine, Bo. We've had an opportunity to connect with a lot of folks. We've learned a lot about this team. We're not any closer to finding out what's going to happen with pick 3 or DeAndre Hopkins, but we feel like we've got some transparency now with regards of some potential options. So we appreciate all the support throughout this week and our coverage. We are back on Monday. It looks like we've got our sound back. We're back on.
Real quick, I know CHGO's here. I teased it a little bit. Just pay it off. You talked to a quarterback prospect that is spoken with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes.
And that's Dorian Thompson-Robinson of UCLA. DTR
under Chip Kelly. Big kid, can move, not a little bit, a lot. And he is somebody that I think as a developmental prospect, and the Cardinals are going to have a lot of lottery tickets, probably looking at a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick maybe, get him in there with Kyler Murray and whomever they opt to have be the veteran QB, whether it's Colt McCoy or somebody else. But again, we've been of the mindset, probably going to take a quarterback at some point. And again, that does not mean that they dislike Kyler Murray. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback high,
right?
But they're going to take it. They're going to take a quarterback, and they should.
And they should get in the routine of doing so.
Yes.
Because when you're going to pay a guy that's going to be close to $50 million and then he's going to take up as much cap percentage as Kyler Murray, you need to have cheaper option behind him, and then also hopefully develop somebody if something goes wrong and you have to move off of that contract. That's just the reality of the business. And also talk to some talented receivers to find out who they were. Check out my man on Twitter at Johnny Venerable, and of course PHNX_Cardinals. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to this channel. We got great content coming to you all offseason long because we own the offseason, boys. It's been a blast here in Indianapolis. Thank you for the All City for sending us out here, putting us up in just a house of horrors of an Airbnb and flying us home safely. For Shane Diefenbach doing some great work behind the scenes, and our guy Lawrence. Thank you so much for all your work here as far as our friend.
For me, but that's
all friends from DMVR, Alley, RK, the whole gang. Thank you to everybody. We will talk to you Monday with a brand new show for PHNX Cardinals. We'll talk to you then. Have a great weekend.